What's up, guys? In this video I'm going to go through my 2023 Thad Rogers tournament, but before I get into that, don't forget to like and subscribe for more great chess videos. So I'm going to start with my game against Damian Krotov. Something funny about the time control, but we'll get into that in the second half. So I start out with c4. I know he plays Caro Con and he plays Slav. Honestly, I probably should have gone to the Caro, but I didn't quite feel ready, like with e4. I had done a bunch of prep with e4, but not quite ready for it, and I didn't know if this was the tournament to whip out the new stuff. So I just went with a nice, cool, calm and collected English. So c4, he follows up c6, which he pretty much always move one is going to play. That is something with Caro players and Slav players. They just always can go c6, move one. It is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. And I try to hit him with the DaaronChess rizz. So the way this is, one of my students played this Grandmaster DaaronChess, super strong Chinese Grandmaster, like 2600, and he played this line against him that was really, really sick. And it kind of reignited my love for the English. So the problem with the English, in theory, is if you go d4 and make it, let's say, like, for example, g6, or even here I go d4, I'm going to get a Slav. Now I can go Slav. Slav is a good opening from both sides, but there are some very theoretical lines that I'm trying to avoid. And d4 always makes the games kind of mid, like Slav, QGD. In both those lines, I just don't like d4, d5, and I realized I don't have to go d4. I can just avoid it. So I go b3, bishop e2, bishop b2, and I'm just holding off on d4. Now, something that is important is before you go bishop b2, make sure you go b3. For example, if here I go, so e3, g6, and bishop e2, he can take on c4. Now, of course, computer doesn't really care, but this is supposed to be a waste of a tempo because the bishop moved twice. Now, I do get the big center, so that is always a trade-off, but that's why I like to go b3 first. That way, if they ever take after bishop e2, I would just take with the b pawn, and I would think I would be more than fine here. But funny enough, d takes c4 is what is liked by the comp. Anyway, so we go into some normal moves. So he goes with early knight e4. So I thought he was being a little over aggressive here. I guess trying to punish this diagonal. But if I can ever trade this bishop for this bishop, I'm pretty happy here. So queen c1. So I was thinking about queen c2 a lot, but this lets him go bishop f5 with tempo. Not that this is the end of the world. I was thinking about knight takes e4 here, or some other moves like that, but I just decided to avoid it with queen c1, because remember, my big idea is to trade off this bishop for this bishop, and if my queen's going to end up on b2, might as well get there through c1, so I don't have to worry about bishop f5 with tempo. So he goes e5, trying to take the big center. Now here, there's a really, really sick line that he was telling me about after the game, and I actually calculated all of this. So it looks like there's a free pawn on e5. But the idea is he's going to go queen g5 and hit g2. So I saw this, and I even saw knight takes f7. The key being the bishop on c8 is hanging. So if he goes rook takes, I would take here gg. Now king takes is possible. I did look at this a little bit, and I thought he was just fine here. I did miss that this bishop is under attack. So queen c7 check is actually super, super strong. Because if he moves the king, I take the bishop, and if he goes queen e7, I just take, and take. And I'm going to have two bishops and an extra pawn. The bishop pair and an extra pawn. An extra two pawns, actually, in this case. So this would be, like you see, +6. Now, the reason I didn't go for this move altogether was I was looking at queen takes g2. And I was like, dude, this is too crazy. I can't do this. But actually, the line gets really sick. So knight h6 check. So if he takes, I can go queen c4 check. So I'm hitting the king. And he has to block with the rook because the bishop is cutting this off. And now it's actually pretty much mate. So queen takes. I guess you can go bishop, like rook f8, bishop c4 is actually just mate in one, which is pretty sick. I mean, look at these two snipers, just raking the opponent's king. But he can go bishop f8, and apparently I just go rook f1, and then bishop c4 is unstoppable, and this is just winning. But the key variation is after knight h6 check, he doesn't have to take. He can go king h8, and the key move here, which is honestly so sick, queen c3, because now if he takes, this is actually just going to be mate, which would be an amazing checkmate. But it gets even deeper than that. So queen c3, he could, if he takes on h1, now he can't stop mate. bishop f1 is GG. But what makes it complicated is he can take on f2 check, king d1, and now bishop takes, take, and he blocks with the rook, and then it keeps going. You go rook f1, take, and now I'm hitting this, threatening mate, but he can go king g7, knight g8, so now I'm going to win back the exchange, and then after all this, I think, 7 moves later, I would have 2 bishops, the bishop pair, and an extra pawn against his position for a nice, solid 0.7 advantage. So, I don't know if this was the move. Now, there are definitely a lot of places where he could go wrong, and he'd have to see all this. But once I saw queen takes g2, I was like, alright, it's not worth it. And this is going to be a really big theme from the tournament. And I think this is a good thing to talk about for this first round. The first round of a tournament, a lot of times, sets the theme for the tournament. And basically from this, and something that I definitely need to fix, is I didn't go too extra deep and do the hard work and the calculations, and that made winning a lot harder. If I had found this, maybe I could have gotten an early knockout. So anyway, I didn't go for all the craziness. I just castled because I was like, all right, I got pressure on the center. I'm better developed. You see all my pieces are out. I should be able to strike in the center soon. So he takes, I go pawn takes. The reason I go pawn takes is I want to take and go c4, and also I want to put pressure on the d file with the rook. So that is the idea behind this. The bishop e6, rook d1. So he goes queen c8, which I thought was an inaccuracy. I thought he was going to go knight d7, and then take, and e4 is my idea with all this kind of stuff. And the bishop h6, once again, I have this very sneaky idea of knight takes f7. He takes the queen, I take his queen. He takes the bishop, I take the bishop. If he takes the rook, I take the rook. And if he takes the knight, I take the bishop. And once again, I have a nice solid 0.7, 0.6 advantage after all that work. So here, it is equal material, but he's got the double isolated pawns. I wouldn't say my bishop is like that much better than knight, but bishop's pawns on both sides of the board, I would say slightly better for white here. And that is why this variation is okay. But once again, I wasn't trying to go into the super cray-cray. So he played queen c8, and this allows me to go knight g5 and try to grab this bishop, as well as put pressure in the center. So he goes rook d8, knight takes, take. And I thought this maneuver was pretty nice, rook g2, trying to double up on the d-pawn. Now, for example, if he goes knight c5, this would just be winning material. And once again, I got the 2 bishops, and this would be a very nice position for white. But he found the best move, knight f6, so c4, and here I was worried he was going to go d4. And the reason d4 works is take, bishop f3, which is my idea, and knight e4 does not win material after rook e2 because he has knight c3. You don't actually win any material here because he's hitting my queen. And for example, if I do this, this is going to be pretty annoying because this pawn is not going anywhere any day because it's on a dark square supported by the dark bishop. I think I can grab b7, but I mean it's going to be hard to win here, and even possible to lose because his pawn is worth a lot in that position. But he didn't play d4, he played rook d7. So here I was like, alright, I must be better here. Take, trade, and I get, and don't go bishop c4 here because he has this idea of e4 like that, or I guess knight b6. And then I just gotta move again. And I don't really want to get same color bishop endgame. It's gonna be hard to win. So I was like, alright, let me take my bishops. And then also if I go rook d7, I have great penetration and invasion in the endgame. This is also always a really big idea in endgames. Invade your opponent's position, hit all the weak pawns, and that's kind of how you win a lot of these endgames. So here his knight is covering, so I go a4, rook c8, a5, kick his knight back. Like here I know, like, okay, I'm doing really well. Now the best move here would be rook d7 because there is no back rank problem. For example, rook c2, he actually has a worse back rank, this, and bishop a3. And now, for example, if he takes, I can take with check. No, I go king f1 first. And if rook a2, I go bishop takes, and now I threaten mate, and I threaten the knight, and that would pretty much be a GG. So that would have been a nice way to close the game. But I wanted, once again, I went for the safer route, and I think this is something that I'm going to have to take away, is sometimes you're going to, like, if you want to get the knockouts, you want to get the finishes, you got to be willing to take some punches, and put in that extra work into going to the danger zone. Now, that being said, like, this is +5, like, this should be winning. Now, I did think about f4, I thought he could go rook d8, which would be kind of annoying. But here, the very nice move is rook f1. And now I take here, and I have pressure on f7, and I'll be up a pawn. And then these pawns would be really, really strong. So on top of going hard in the calculations, always also looking at the other moves, which is something that you're going to see throughout the tournament. So I didn't go for this variation. Instead, I went rook d7, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to win a pawn here, and this should be winning. You got the bishop pair, got an extra pawn, and his knight on a8 is terrible. And I mean, okay, it's +4. Like, this is pretty good for white. But the problem is, we also were getting in time pressure here. And basically at this point, we thought it was 5-second increment. And the tournament director came up to us and was like, hey, you got to always write down your moves. And I was like, well, it's 5-second increment. It's the same thing as 5-second delay, so you don't. And he was like, wait, it's not 5-second increment, it's 30-second increment, which is really annoying because basically it got kind of complicated, and I ended up trading this bishop for this knight and getting an opposite color bishop endgame. Now, another problem that happened in the game is I never could take this pawn because by some magic, this bishop would get trapped back here. And when time pressure, I didn't really have time to calculate everything. Now, it wasn't like super bad. It was like I had 2 minutes and he had like a minute. But I had PTSD from the last game I played with 60+5, where I actually flagged in a better position. And because of that, I was like really trying to minimize risk. Like I didn't want to trade off, and I thought these pawns could get weak. So I made some very subpar moves. And basically we traded this for this, the bishop for the knight, and got an opposite color bishop endgame. And that's when they added 50 minutes to both our clocks. So I was like, all right, opposite color bishops, maybe I can press. I can't lose. And he's in time pressure. So there's still a good chance that he makes some kind of mistake. But then once we got, literally the second we got opposite color bishops, they added 50 minutes to both their clocks, and there's just nothing I can do. Like, maybe with 5-second increment, I would have some chances of him making a mistake. But with literally infinite time, like this is a very easy hold for black. Like he just blockades these squares, and unfortunately these pawns are pretty much useless. If I could have got same color bishops, there'd be chances, but I also got scared of this bishop getting trapped, which happened a lot in a lot of different lines. So this game ended a draw, unfortunately, and this is kind of the theme for the tournament. I got winning positions, I played well, and then I just couldn't find the knockouts, and you're going to see that in the next couple games. So this is round 1 against Damian, Krotov. Let's get into round 2 next. Alright, so this is round 2 against Sasha Creighton, a friend of mine. He is white and I am black. So he starts out with d4, which he normally plays. Funny story about Sasha. Every Sasha I've ever met is Russian. And Sasha Creighton looks enough Russian to pass as Russian. But apparently Sasha is not Russian. They just really like the name. They like the Russian name Sasha. So Sasha is actually American, even though he has a Russian name, which is actually pretty cool. I would definitely consider naming my kid Sasha too, because it's such a cool name. And every Sasha I've ever met or known is always a really cool guy. So, I mean, that's the backstory of Sasha here. So he plays the Catalan. I was thinking, do I go Stonewall Dutch or do I go normal Dutch? And since I was a bit frustrated with the last game, let me put this back. Is he going to go to the right? Yeah, it goes to the rightful spot. I was kind of frustrated with the last game since I should have won, but I didn't win. I was like, all right, we're just going to keep it simple and do what I know. So I went bishop b4 check, this variation. This is, I think, a very nice variation for black. Very easy to play, and you can get an advantage. Now, here with this line, the idea is you save castling. You save one move by not castling and taking the center. That way you can have good center control. And here black is already kind of doing pretty well. So d5, there's actually this cool line, take, and e4, which is always a really common idea. But here I think black wins in exchange. So bishop g4, queen e1 I think is almost forced, and then knight d4. And after, for example, like knight takes pawn, you just go bishop e2, you grab the exchange, and then it's not a simple game. After that, like they have light square. This bishop can be really annoying and very strong, and the center is kind of open. But you're up in exchange. I mean, look at the computer, minus almost 2. So that is also another common line in this variation, just to keep in mind. So he goes here, queen b3. I thought was an interesting idea. He wants to go queen c3 and b4. Now the thing is, it does cost some time. he is spending like 1-2 queen moves to do this, and in these positions it becomes a queen side race versus a king side race. And if you're going to give me time on the king side, I'm going to have a fun time. So b6. So here, what the idea with b6 is literally just to prevent c5. I figured since he has to move the queen and go b4, I have time to stop this. There were some variations like castle, c5, and for example, if I took here, he had d6 check or knight takes e5. Actually, this doesn't work. No, this is good too. But also knight takes e5 is pretty strong. So since he was spending some time, I was like, all right, I'll go b6 just to slow it down, and then I'll get back to work on my strong side. So b6, queen c3, and once he played queen c3, I realized he could go knight takes e5. So every move, both of us are calculating knight takes e5 to make sure it doesn't work. If he does it here, my idea, well actually, so here I can actually just take on d6 and take on d2, so he can't do it here. But we'll analyze queen takes e5 pretty much every move. So castle, castle. Now here can he do it? So take d6. My plan here was e4, and after take, and for example, if he goes like f3, I could go e3, and black has a huge space advantage here, and I'm going to nullify his bishop real quick with bishop b7, and you could definitely make the case that black is doing well here. So here I didn't have to worry about it, but he was burning a lot of clock trying to figure it out, make it work. So now here, if he tries it, knight takes, pawn takes, d6, I actually have knight c6, and now there's nothing, he doesn't even win the rook, and he doesn't have enough pawns to say he's better. And if queen takes e5, there's a bunch of moves here, but basically now I have time. I can even go like knight g6, for example, and if he trades here, take d6, I can just move to rook. Actually, no, this is bad. But I can go knight takes e8, and now d6, rook b8, and now I don't lose the c7 pawn. So here black is doing fine. So no sacrifice here. Now this maneuver is a god maneuver if you were a Dutch player. Queen e8, queen h5, and f4, bishop h3, knight g4. And this is how I've checkmated so many people online and over the board. So I definitely recommend this maneuver if you play the Dutch, or even in the Stonewall Dutch, it's a useful maneuver. So queen b3, b6, queen c3, no sacrifices like we said. Rook d1, queen e8, and now he goes b4, trying to start this attack. But here I think it's starting to get too late, because I go f4, which I thought was a good move. Knight g5. Now here I have a couple ideas. Queen h5, knight f5. But I thought, what is the fastest way to attack in this position? And that is take on g3. Just the sooner you get rid of these pawns in front of your opponent's king, the sooner your attack is going to go. And also optically, it looks better for you as well. Because they can see, like, the sooner you can get your opponent to see immediate threats, the sooner they're going to start reacting. And here, like, for example, if he goes like queen takes, like, this is already kind of just GG. Like, the knights come in, this knight is loose, and I'm going to get so many tempos. So he goes h takes. I thought f takes was a little bit more necessary. Now here, I mean, still same ideas, like this, and here. And I'm going to eventually win this pawn and then still have initiative over here. So the reason why f takes a little bit better, though, is it does offer more defensive options on the king side, which seems kind of weird because you're opening up the king, but now you can counter with the rook, and now h2 is not actually hanging. Well, now he can actually do something. Like, let's just say, for example, like knight g4, here you can go h3, but if this pawn is on f2, you can't stop queen h2 check, and that is another huge idea in these Dutches. That is very important. So he played h takes, which is always a natural move, but from playing the Dutch for so many years, I've learned that f takes is a little bit more trying. So queen h5, knight e6, and here I actually don't even have to take it, but I do take, and now knight g4, and now everything is kind of going. Now there's a sick variation that I missed here, which is also like, why am I missing this kind of stuff? Like, I guess this is some rust, and this is not effectively doing the puzzles, which I'm going to summarize at the end. But now if I go rook takes f2, bishop takes a8, and queen h3, he can't stop mate. There's no way to stop rook takes f1 and queen h2 mate. It's actually unbelievable that this is just GG. I'm down a rook, but 1, 2, 3 versus 1, and this king is very weak. So that would have been a really cool way to end the game. Instead, I found this other tactic: knight takes f2, bishop takes a8, knight h3 check, king h1. I was trying to make any other move work, but this combination is enough to win. So rook takes f1, take, knight f4 check, king g1, and now I fork the king and queen. Let me get this position.
Light it up.
So here I did spend like maybe 10 minutes trying to figure out, is this good enough? So I have a queen and knight and 2 pawns for 2 rooks, which is a lot. That's what is that? 14 points? Yep, 14 to 10, so I'm plus 4. Now this pawn, like I've been traumatized by enough passed pawns or very advanced passed pawns to know this can be dangerous. But once I found the move knight f5, I was like, all right, this is enough. Because I'm going to be very active. He's going to lose g3 for sure. And then it's kind of game over for him. So take on c7, queen e2 check. He went king h3, so king g1 would have been more interesting. So my plan here was the correct evaluation. I was going to go like queen e3, king h1, and then h5. So you do lose the knight, but you're going to get everything over here. And I mean, you could probably even get these pawns as well. And the king is relatively safe, and the queen and knight do a really good job of boxing out this this king. So this is 100% winning for black here. I think like plus 9. But he went king h3, and then I get g5, which is even stronger. Because now g4 is straight up just mate, and I also defend back rank here. So this is a very nice multi-purpose move where he doesn't have many options here. Now here he went g4, and this is where I was like, let me have a little bit of fun. So I took the queen, I reached for the f3 square, looked at him, and he was like, and then I moved to e3 check. Because queen f3 check obviously is a huge blunder, because he can just take it. That would have been sad. But yeah, I pump faked queen f3 check, and I went queen e3 check, and then after that, everything kind of just falls with check, 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 and I think it's something like this, and then that's just mate. So something like this is how it ended. I don't have the exact move, but yeah, at this point, it's over for white. So a nice bounce back game. Always nice to go back to Old Faithful to get a nice attacking game. And now we'll move on to round 3. Alright, so this is my round 3 game against Damir Studen. Very strong player, local guy to Atlanta. So I go c4, trying to hit with the DaaronChess rizz again. And he goes Slav again. I knew another Slaver. So I was just going to avoid going d4. Though here, I played some Bliss games with him in the Slav. So there was a real consideration that I was going to play Slav and try to go for e4 and get these 2 bishops. But I was like, alright, let me just do what the plan was. And here, it was kind of annoying. Like, he actually knows me pretty well, and he knows the way I play. So he was like, I knew you might be upset to something, so I'm not going to castle too soon, because you might do some crazy stuff. And for sure, like, you'll see what happened in the game, but I was really gunning for g4, g5 in the game. But he went with, he didn't castle because he knew that I might be up to something, and that might have saved him from a very nice attack. He was saying maybe not go rook c8. That way he would have the chance of castling queenside at some point, which I think makes some sense. But alright, so basically at this point I ran out of moves, so it's time to just go for the idea, kind of regardless of whether he casts or not. So I went rook g1 with the idea of going g4 here, which actually is a really nice idea. Like here you can already see it's plus 1.5. Like this is what DaaronChess did against one of my students, and it's pretty legit. It's like it's a fun way to play. So d3, take. Now I was really considering knight d1 here to avoid letting him trade off pieces, but knight d1 just seemed like I was going really backwards. Even though I do want to keep pieces, I think tempo is very important as well. So I just kind of pushed forward, so take, and now I have pressure on g7. Now b5 I thought was a very strange move, just because now I get this very strong space in the queen side, and this bishop is in purgatory pretty much. But it's an interesting idea. And here I thought he was going to go bishop e7. The point being, if I take on g7, he has bishop f6, which is pretty much GG. Now here, my plan was to go g5 if he did this, and even though he gets the castle, I thought I had a nice attack against his king. I got the sides really messed up in this game. Even though it looks like I should be playing on the king side here, computer actually wants me to play on the queen side, which I was not exact. I mean, I guess it just wants me to take space and then go for this. You know what the idea? Maybe it stops a5 or something. But basically, in this game, I had a lot of space and I had to use it in the right way. So anyway, let's go back. He didn't go bishop e7. He went queen f6. Now here, another interesting idea was knight e5. And the reason I didn't play this is I thought he could go queen h4 and start hitting these pawns over here. But apparently I just ignore it. a4, take, rook g3, and I can actually trap the queen. With here, and g5, queen h5, knight e5, and then queen h2, bishop f3, and I'm going to go king e2, and then rook h1, and he should be trapped. I wasn't 100% sure about sacking this pawn. That's why I didn't go for it. But once again, if you want to be good, if you want to be great, you got to really go deep in the calculations. And that is what I missed in this position. Now, what I did was fine too. I went d4. Now, this does kind of lock it up. But I was like, all right, I'm just going to assault the queen side, and I'm going to have a good time here. So a4, a6. Yeah, knight e5 is an idea. And just take the huge space advantage. Oh, yeah, this line was insane. So let me show you guys this. So f4 here, and now if f6 he kicks, knight g6, take, and here he just can't really stop e4, queen h3 without giving up apparently a lot of material, which this is too much. Like, I was not going to do this, of course, but you can always just pull back and just enjoy the nice space advantage here that white has. +2, I mean, +2 is pretty legit, I will say. So queen d8, a6, and here I mean, I'm attacking this side, so it would make sense to break through on this side, right? So rook a7, queen c7, queen a3, and he found a really good move here, bishop d8. I thought if castle, I was going to go knight e5 was my idea. And now there's all kinds of tactics like this and this. Actually, no. So bishop, first of all, bishop takes. I immediately have rook takes b7. I remember there's a lot of stuff here, and I thought, so queen b8, for example, queen b6 is like pretty much GG, and then I have knight e5, and knight takes c6 is really strong, and he has no good way to capture. Bishop takes b5 is also possible with c6 at the right time, so he couldn't go queen b8. If he took here, I was going to go pawn takes, and now this pawn and this bishop this is going to be too much for you. Got to go like bishop a8, and now I'm basically just up a piece, knight e5, and I really break through here. But he played really good defense. He played he played bishop d8. So now he played rook takes, forced, and now I went king d2, and he went king d7. And this is where I was like, all right, I must be better here. I clearly have a good position. Eventually I'll break through. And what's crazy about this position is the computer wants to just literally come back. So this didn't work, but it doesn't actually want to play over here. It wants to play on the king side. It wants to go like f4, let's say king b8, and just come back to a2, and then just like eventually go h4, h5, or g5, and eventually break through over here. But I was so focused over here, I missed this side of the board. I thought for sure there must be some kind of win over here, and that kind of led to frustration, where it was like I was breaking my head trying to figure it out over here. Instead, I should just be like, well, I have space, let me just make good moves. So rook g1, and here there's actually a really sick idea that we both missed and we saw after, rook a6. So this.
Wait a minute! Who are you?
Now, obviously, this is not an easy move to find. You're literally just sacking a rook. But the big idea is you're going to kind of take and then take on c6 after. And then you're going to get b5, and then you're going to have 1, 2, 3, and these two pawns against this side of the board, which should be enough to break through. I did go a little bit deeper here. So this, knight takes, and then here, like, let's say rook b7, for example. We're going to go rook a6. We're going to have time to take this. Now, it's still not super clear. Like, this seems like losable for white too, but just the control here is insane. Let's say king c7. And then here, knight a5. And now we're going to have to move, rook b8. Okay, computer always loves to repeat, which I think is funny. But just f4 and you're squeezing, and it's a +5 squeeze. So this is what the art I need to master, the squeezing better positions. I'm able to get it, and I think my opening, like the expanse of my opening repertoire has led me to get good positions, but I need to find the right technique, because finishing these positions and finishing like e4, c5 games, like Sicilians and all these like Scotch gambits, are very different. Like in those games, like you're sacking a piece, you're checkmating the king, you're pushing your pawns, you're like opening them up. Here it's very much about control and understanding weaknesses and like strategic warfare. So that is something that I have to work on from that I've seen from these tournaments. But the good news is I'm getting winning positions. I'm getting good positions against strong players, and by working on this technique, by studying some Kramnik and Big Vlad, like I will be able to push through in these games. So yeah, rook a6 would have been sick. And now I kind of, and this is what's really important about analyzing your games. Next time you're in similar positions, you're gonna have this almost like intuition or the sixth sense, like, okay, I have these type of ideas because I've been here before, and I think that is what I take away from these games. But basically, I went f4, f6, knight d3, rook e7, and here he offered a draw, and I think he had maybe like 10 minutes, and I had like 25 minutes, something. I had like more time, but then on the draw offer, I ended up just spending all the time being like, am I really gonna play this? Like, I could definitely lose. And my plan was completely wrong. I wanted to go bishop f3 and try to break open here, but the computer once again just wants to come back and make defeat over here and say, hey, we got space. He's going to go bishop e7 and break with e5 though, which can be scary, because if the bishops open up, you never know what could happen. So here I decided to take the draw. Just once again, just very similar to round one. Like, I had a very nice game, a good position, and then I just couldn't find the breakthrough at the right time, and that is something that I 100% need to work on. So that was round 3. So now we're getting into the money rounds, round 4 and round 5. So one thing I got to add about this game is we were pump faking a lot throughout this game. Like, move 1, I hovered over the e-pawn and then took my hand back.
Todd trying to stay with Stefan. Oh, no.
Then I hovered over the d-pawn and took my hand back.
Todd trying to stay with Stefan. Oh, no.
Then I hovered over the c-pawn, took my hand back.
Todd trying to stay with Stefan. Oh, no.
And then I moved to c4. Because we played a lot of training games, so he knows I can play e4, d4, and c4. I would say probably best results come with e4. Maybe some with c4, but definitely best results come with e4. But this one I decided to mix things up, because also I wasn't expecting to play him this round. I was prepping, I think, for Zapata the night before, going through openings for him. I thought I was going to get black as well. So once I found out I was playing him, I just went with c4. But throughout the game, and this is something I wanted to add to the other video with the whole game recap, is we pump faked the whole game. Or I would better say he pump faked the whole game. Every move would be like, oh, I'm going to do this, oh, I'm going to do this, oh, I'm going to do this. And yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. So definitely wanted to add that. Alright, so this is my game against the man, the myth, the legend, Ethan Sheehan. Very promising young player from Georgia, a good friend of mine. We didn't expect to be playing. Pairings are kind of weird. Colors didn't match, but it's time to go. And eventually we got to play. When you're the top seeds of the tournament, it's just a matter of time. So once again, try to hit him with the DaaronChess rizz. C4, knight f3, e3, bishop d6. And then here he goes f5. He takes a page out of my book. He plays the Stonewall Dutch.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
And we've done some trading matches before too. And I'm actually on the black side of most of these. So I thought it was very interesting that he played Stonewall Dutch. So I decided to go for something that he likes a lot. So g3, bishop g2. And pretty much here we have the hippopotamus. A great, I'm not going to say great opening, but one of Ethan's personal favorites. He loves the hippo, or he loves to joke about playing the hippo. Pretty much every tournament game he ever plays, he's like, should I play the hippo this game? I think I'm going to play the hippo this game. Then he goes, I'm not going to play the hippo this game. But in training matches, he will play the hippo. He's very serious about that. And the hippo is no joke, especially against Stonewall Dutch. This is actually something that we talked about. He did beat me as white against the Stonewall Dutch in a very similar setup. So it's not quite hippo because we go c4. But against Stonewall Dutch, it can be dangerous for this idea. White can kind of grab the dark square bishop, and now there's going to be a lot of holes in black's position. So ideas, he could have tried e4 here and to keep the bishop, but the reason this looks a little bit sus is there's a lot of outposts for the knights, and there's a lot of holes in his position. Now this is still, according to the computer, pretty fairly even, but that's why he didn't go for e4 in this position. Instead, he went knight c6. Let me get the guy. And then I went bishop e2, just to kind of chill. So f4 I thought was a good idea by him, but it is a little bit rushed. But I thought if he gives me time, like I can go d4, knight e5 at the right time. Rook c1 is probably what I play, or d3, and eventually, I've been on the black side of these, and it can be not fun for sure. So I wasn't really worried about this in this position. So he goes f4, which I thought was an interesting idea, because it does start making things over here potentially dangerous. Like if he can get bishop g4 in with some knight e4 action, like he can start getting some tactics over here. Maybe throw in queen c5 check at the right time if I go f takes. So I just went d3, which I thought was a nice move. Just take away knight e4, prepare queen d2, and then I can start countering. Because here I am behind kind of on development. Once I get the queen and the rook in, then my 2 bishops should be superior, was my idea. So rook e8, queen d2, take, and here I thought f takes was a nicer idea. H takes is definitely possible. It keeps the king safe, but f takes seemed kind of alluring because this f file can be useful for me. Like I can actually start some attacks here. This also makes defending, like I talked in the Sasha game, easier for white with the rook this way, where the other way, like always gotta worry about the h2 square. So f takes was my choice here. Bishop g4, and here computer likes knight d4. It really likes just taking this outpost, and the reason this is not a problem is because some crazy rook takes f6 stuff and all this and everything falls, which I was not looking at. But basically, I wanted to avoid this pin for now, so that is also why I played rook f2, because now I avoid any checks, and I can double up faster. So this is a very nice multi-purpose move. And here he played rook f8, and this is the first draw offer.
And Matlikov offers another draw and another draw.
Now, over my course of games with Ethan, I have probably had over double-digit draw offers from him.
And Matlikov offers another draw and another draw.
I don't think I've ever offered one either. But yeah, so he goes rook f8 and offers the first. He actually gives a little speech. He's like, well, I said I wasn't going to offer any draws, but I offer you a draw. And he smiles. And I'm like, no, I'm going to play. The reason I decided to play this is, one, I have 2 bishops. Rook f8 is a backwards move. He is going back and forth, wasting time. And since I want to attack and create some initiative, this is always a huge cue for chess players. If your opponent wastes time and you haven't wasted time, generally the position should be good for you and ripe for the taking. So here I went rook f1, getting ready to bust open. He went queen c5, and here I went knight e5. I was really thinking about king h1 here, just to get out of this pin, but I was like, I don't need to, because there's not really any discoveries, and I always have d4 at the right time if I need to. So knight e5, bishop h5, and this is when, like, a lot of crazy stuff, this is when there can be crazy stuff. So queen g5 I kind of outlawed because h6, queen h4, and I was like, I might get in trouble here. But what's kind of cool is, let's see, so queen h4, so let's say knight e7 for example. I have bishop d4, and then I have the beginning of the idea of rook takes f6 and all of this stuff. And if he takes here, queen f6 is the refutation. So this would have been pretty rizzy, but also pretty crazy. Now instead of queen g5, g4 was what I was really calculating. And now the question, if he goes bishop g6, I can just take here and get a better version of the game. So I did something like this in the game, but I wasted tempo. So here I think white would have been doing completely fine. I mean, more than fine, like better and winning. So g4, the critical line is knight takes e5, pawn push, so queen b6, take, knight takes g4, queen takes d5 check. Now king h8, he is not dead. Well, he is dead, but I can't take here immediately because this is pinned. But I have bishop d4 here, and now he would actually be pretty much lost here. He would have to sack the queen, and that would be very hard for him to come back from. So check. He has bishop f7, and then I have e6, and if bishop takes e6, I can take on b7. If he takes on f2, there's mate on g7. So he's got to respect this. Take everything, and here, and then I have a 2 bishop endgame. And the reason this is +2, which I still don't know if I completely agree with the evaluation, is I should be getting this pawn on a7, just bishop d4, and then collect this guy, and then connected pass pawns on the outside, 2 bishops. Like, only white can win this, and it's a very, I think, easy way for white to play here. But I didn't go deep enough to see all of that, which, once again, is my fault. I should be going deeper in these positions. Instead, I went h3, rook e8, and then g4, and then here, take, and then king h1 to get out of the pin. Once again, queen g5 would be strong, but I was just so paranoid about this pin that I didn't pull the trigger, which is definitely a lesson to take away from this. So king h1, d4, rook f4, knight d7, and here he offers a draw.
And Matlikov offers another draw and another draw.
And the sad part is, I missed a win here. A really, really nice win, a really cool win. And something that I actually looked at. So to preface this, I was calculating knight d5 a lot. And here I have the same idea. So bishop a3, he can go knight db4, and then take, and here rook c1 would be really strong because I will win material after bishop takes knight, and the rook or the knight will be a goner. Wait, actually, so queen a5 hits the bishop. So if I went bishop takes c6, he would take on a3. But here I can go take, check, king h7, and queen g5. And this was a huge point in this game. There were some serious mate threats on this h-file. And if he stays with queen here, take here, and then I would be up a pawn with an outside pass pawn. Still not an easy game, but white can pretty much only win this, and it is +5, which is a lot. But that's why I saw bishop a3. So now here, after knight d7, maybe the draw offer helped him in this case. But I have the same idea, bishop a3, but it's even stronger. And the idea is take, check, king here. And the only move I really looked at was queen f2. But he just goes g5, and this is, and I'm just losing, actually. I'm down a piece. But what I didn't look at was another way to do it that's even more efficient. I can go g5. And now he can't stop mate on h4. He can go knight f6 check, and then take, and then just everything is falling apart. I mean, like you can see, this is +12, which is a pretty good place to be if you're playing a chess game. Now he can go king h8, but this is just as bad because after this, take, queen takes, knight f8, only way to stop mate. I have queen f7, and this is just going to win just all the material. And this would have been a very nice way to finish the game. But once again, I was not finding the finishes in this tournament. And that's why I'm going to take puzzles very seriously from now on. Because if I can find these tactics, then I can beat these strong players. So here, and then this is actually when I started playing bad. I started getting a time pressure here. Don't know why I was playing so slow. There's no need for it. Bishop e4 was the move. Anchor the bishop, be active. The problem is I do have the 2 bishops versus the 2 knights, but this bishop is not good, and his knights have a lot of squares to kind of outpost on. So I want a3, knight e6, b4, queen d6. Yeah, I mean I thought queen e5 was a little bit better, but this b5. I thought, okay, push the knight back, but now these pawns get weak, everything gets weak. Queen b4 I knew was an awful move, because now I'm leaving this king by himself. And even the queen trade here, okay, computer says slightly better, but it's going to be easier for him to play, I believe, with this bishop stuck, and now these pawns are not really an asset for me. So, queen b4, queen e5, bishop c1, knight c5, which I was really happy he played. So actually b6 would have been really dangerous, because now he has this threat, and I don't really have any useful moves here. My pieces are really stuck, and yeah, they say like 2 bishops are always good, but these bishops kind of suck, not gonna lie. So fortunately, he played knight c5, and I can take this off and pretend to press here, but the problem is he always has perpetual, and if not, the knight comes in. The knight will come in. I have to win this one. The knight will come in. D3 is soft. So here I'd go take on b7, and he just has perpetual, and we agree to a draw here.
And Matlikov offers another draw and another draw, and this time Fedoseev takes it.
So real back and forth game. The opening I thought was a good. I got a good. Once again, the Juan Chao rizz is good. It's like I just gotta know how to navigate these better positions in the middle game, and find the finishes. Like if you can find the knockouts, you're good to go. But there was a hippopotamus. The wild beast has appeared, and unfortunately I couldn't do her justice. But fortunately, we did get good positions. So I think at this point, what am I? 2.5 out of 4. Going into the last round, and there is still a chance I can get first, but there were a lot of draws at the top. So I'll talk about the situation in the last round. All right, so this is my last round game against Aaron Decord. One could say it's the battle of the Aarons. Aaron Deepak versus Decord Aaron. So he goes d4. I'm black here. Okay, so I have 2.5 out of 4. Ethan and Andrew have 3 out of 4, and Zapata and Damir have 3 out of 4. So if those two boards draw and I win, then I can tie for first. So I was really gunning for them to draw, and then it's okay. So I decided to go with Bogo this game. Once again, I was really thinking about going Dutch. Last time I played him, we played a Dutch. I mean, I don't really think he prepped for me that deep or anything. But I was like, all right, let me mix it up and be a man and play another opening. So knight d2, queen e7. Always the big idea for the Bogo is you want to push d6, e5. So I was getting that ready. So queen e7, and now queen c2. Like if you want to think why is he going queen c2, he wants to push e4. So I go d6 to meet e4 with e5. So if I castle here, I was worried after e4 and like for example d6, he would go e5 himself, and then he would just have the huge space advantage, which I thought could be very nice for white here. So I have to be able to time it so that when he goes e4, I'm ready with e5. Now here I actually almost went e5, which would have been a huge blunder, because in my head when I first calculated, I was like, all right, so take, queen a4 check, knight c6, I'm good to go. But the problem here is after e4, and if I go e5, he goes queen check, and after knight c6, now he goes d5, and I would lose a piece. So I mean, I wasn't like super close to playing or anything, but it was my original plan. And I was very wary about the bishop out here, because I know like these pieces can drop off. So I wanted to make sure nothing bad happened to this guy. So after this, I just took on d2, take, and went e5 myself, and now he gets the big center, but I have a lot of room to attack on the king side. So castle, bishop e2. I was really hoping for bishop d3, because then I had all these kinds of ideas with knight takes e4, which actually does not work here. Wow, he castles queen side. That would have been really gangster. So if he can castle king, actually he can castle either side. And basically this position is not good for black. Due to the point that these pieces are stuck. This light square bishop is actually really bad. And whenever these pawns aren't connected in the center, it can be bad news for black. So I actually didn't even have the threat. I wonder if I would have played it. I definitely would have come close to it, but if I calculated deeper, I might have not pulled the trigger. But he went bishop e2. I went knight d7. I was thinking about bishop g4 here and playing this position. And like, okay, he has the 2 bishops and I have the knight, but it's a very close position. Something like this. But apparently he just castles and the 2 bishops are completely fine here. But we've seen this position. Is it really completely fine? So knight d7, bishop c3, knight c5, targeting e4. Now here bishop d3, I definitely feel like I should be able to take on e4. If I can't do it here, I don't know what to say. Neither does the computer, apparently. He's very stuck on bishop d3. Okay, so here, can I do this? Knight takes. Yeah, so this is enough to be good here. And then this, and this. This is what I thought might happen. Now, even this, I actually don't even know if this is good, because he has the open G file and the bishop on c3. So that could be problematic for sure. So once again, it's not, never in life is it clear what to do, and especially never in chess. But he went with knight d2, which is the whole point of bishop c3, so I knew this is coming. So I go a5, castle. And now here I thought f4 was a really big idea for him. Like, if he gets f4 and this bishop opens up and then everything can get weak. Now e4 does become weak. So for example, bishop d7, f4, and okay, taking would be really bad. I wouldn't say like really bad, but apparently I just ignore it. And actually knight a4 is a really nice idea, because I'm gonna get this bishop now because it has nowhere to go. But I go for g5, another nice way to stop f4, but also to start getting an attack, some kind of initiative. He goes f3, which I thought was nice. h5. Now king h7. The idea is rook g8, rook g6, and then ideally at some point getting the other rook to 8 or g8 and starting an attack. So he goes b3, rook g8, king h1, rook g6, rook d1, kind of preparing for g4. And here I thought it was time to go. Like, I really didn't have any more improving moves. I could go b6, or, for example, maybe like bishop d7, But one like really big thing to note is if he goes g4 at the right time, he could stop every potential break ever over here. So I was really making sure that didn't happen. I guess a good question is what does he do? Like let's see. I mean I guess if he's just making waiting moves, I got nothing to worry about. I was thought maybe a3 and then b4, but I guess now I can do the same thing and the rook comes faster. So even here when I thought it was time to go, I could have been a bit more patient. So definitely I would say timing was a bit off this tournament. But bishop h3, rook f2. I was kind of hoping for rook g1 because then I have all these ideas. If I get my knight to f2, it's checkmate. But he was wise to it. He went rook f2, which I think makes more sense. And here I went with g4. Time to go. Now here, like, did I believe in this attack? I don't know. I was just like, well, I gotta go. Like, but I was worried about f4. Like, anything else I was completely fine with, taking g4, blah blah blah. But f4, and I was like, all right, he's opening up the bishop. It could get real dangerous. Time to keep going. And this is one of those things where like we got nowhere else to go but forward. Like sometimes you're stuck in this and you just got to keep going. It's almost like a metaphor to life. So take, and I thought his first inaccuracy here was bishop f1. So I thought here rook f5 would be more dangerous, knight d7, and then similar ideas, but I actually do have some initiative here, interestingly enough. Like take on g3, rook h6, and he's got some things to worry about. A sneaky check in these positions is queen c5 check if the king goes to g1. So just something to keep in mind, and something that he's always got to calculate. So instead of rook f5, he went bishop f1, and now I get to hit him with the rizz. So even here, rook f5 is still possible, and it almost transposes. But he went with take, knight h5, and here, if rook e3, which I thought was the only other way to really defend this, I was going to go queen g5, sack on f7, we just lose because now both rooks are under attack. And here, like now, he doesn't really have many good options here. And if he goes rook e2, now I don't have to worry about f7, and now I can bring in the other rook and start an attack. Wow, rook a6 would be so sick. So the idea is I go rook h6 and then rook f6. But basically, all the important squares are h6, g6, and f6 for these rooks. And this would be a very effective way to get those rooks to those effective squares. So he goes with king h2. So he doesn't go rook e3. So king h2, and this is when I hit him with the rizz. Knight takes g3.
Hey, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. I normally don't ask girls stuff like this until they tell me they're pregnant. What's your name?
So king takes, and in my head, I was like, all right, this game's gonna be over in like maybe 5 moves. Like I sacked, everything is falling apart. Rook h6, like this is just pretty much made on h4. And even he told me after the game, like he went knight f3, like what else am I supposed to do, right? It's like the only thing that stops mate immediately. And then here I got really, really stuck. I was calculating hard what to do here. Rook g8 was a huge consideration, and then also my big plan, which I'm so glad I didn't do, was take on f3, bishop takes h3, and rook takes here. And I was like, all right, queen g5, this has to be made. Rook takes, so my plan, for example, if it goes like rook g1, would just be queen h5, rook g8, mate, right here, immediately. But take on f3, and I was like, okay, if I go check and he goes here, I'm going to win, because I'm going to win the queen. Even this, I would say, maybe a little bit complicated, but okay, I mean, everything is falling. There's a couple of checks, but I'll be fine there. But then I was like, wait, he can go king g2. And now, if I go check, he has time to block with the rook. And now I'm just dead lost. So then another move I was looking at was rook g8 here. And I was like, all right, I mean, how can he stop queen h5 mate? That should be game over. And apparently he has multiple ways to stop it too. But the one I saw was he just goes king h2, and now he can cover with rook h3, and then I'm actually going to lose the queen or something, because rook g1 and the pin is going to be too much for him. For me, not for him. And I was like, are you kidding me? How is it still alive? And rook g8, what I was calculating, so knight f3, rook g8, I was looking at bishop takes h3. So actually no, this is just game over. There's just rook takes king g2, and then e takes f3, like this, and this is game over. So he would go knight takes e5. I was looking at this. Sorry, this is without bishop takes h3. Round 5, the computer's just as tired as I was. We're almost there, buddy. Alright, so knight takes e5. Queen h4 check, king f4. I think g3 was the cleanest. I was looking at this, check, king here, queen g3 check, and I was like, it's kind of messy. Maybe he goes knight f3 or something, and he blocks. I mean, even this, rook takes here and bishop e2. I mean, it looks like he has the mob of pieces, and my king is kind of weak, and this could be dangerous. This bishop, as well as this queen on the king in the line of fire. And then I was also looking at, instead of rook f6 check, and I think the most clean was g3 check, king e3, take on f2, queen takes. And I was like, I don't. If I trade queens here, once again, it looks really messy. My coordination's pretty messed up. I'm up material, and I do get to actually trade off everything. I can go rook f6 check, or actually, yeah, rook f6 check, and then take on f1. But this is not the easiest endgame in the world, for sure. Yeah, knight f3 here, for example, and I got nothing. But what I do have here is rook g3 check, king d2, and then if king d2 is sick move, rook g2, because he's pinned and I'm attacking the queen, so basically I would win the queen here. And if king e2, there's rook f6, and everything is falling apart. So that would have been the cleaner way to go. Once again, the theme of the tournament. I wasn't willing to go deep in the trenches and figure out the win-wins, the real wins, the clear wins, the knockouts. Instead, I was just letting them hang around and survive. So instead of rook g8, I played the also winning, but not clearly winning. Rook g8. So take on f3, take on h3, queen g5 check. So I looked at those are rook g8 also is possible. So here, and this, but I mean he's taking f7, king is weak. I wanted to avoid that, so I went queen g5 check, and then even here I thought, okay, I won a piece, this must be winning. But this endgame is actually pretty tricky because his pawns are strong. I have a knight for 2 pawns, but also he has a million checks that could be really dangerous. Like even my king can get checkmated out here on top of everything. So my final answer after all the deliberation was this, and then queen h5 check to guard f7, king d2, and then knight d3. Now here I really thought, and the computer agrees, he should sack the queen for the rook and piece and play this. And I think I was gonna go rook g8 here. And this would not be an easy game to win. So it's equal pawns, rook and bishop versus queen, but my pawns are significantly weaker. His king, I would even say, is safer. But if I do trade off a pair of rooks, I should be able to clean up and eventually kind of win this game. So he goes with rook f1 instead. So I win the exchange. And here, like, this is when I started playing like an idiot for at least a little bit. So here, for some reason, I thought after queen h5 check, king c1, I could go rook h1 check, and he had to go king d2. And if king d2, obviously this is just game over. But I missed that he can just go king b2, and now his king is actually really safe. And I just kind of escorted him to like the best place it could be. And now my king is actually weaker, and though he's done an exchange, I would actually prefer being white in that position. So instead, after this, I mean, there's so many things I can do, but probably what I would have done is rook check. I can go bishop e1, but let's say like king e2 for example, and then everything falls apart. And at least his king is in the web. As long as his king is in the web, like, he has things to worry about. But I basically just let his king walk out of there for no reason whatsoever. And then I also blundered a pawn, which is really bad. Like, instead of going rook g8, I should go a4 first, and then I can basically, if he takes here, something that's actually really cool here is it opens up check and queen here check, which is actually just like game over. Because the rook is hanging if he blocks the queen, and I also threaten rook takes bishop and then queen takes rook, which also is GG. So a4, I mean, the second I played rook g8, I was like, dude, did I just hang the a pawn? And then this is basically one of those positions where it's like, here we go again. And then here, yeah, rook g5 makes so much more sense because queen h6 check, which is what I play. The problem is now I can't guard both pawns. But rook g5, if I can take a rook off, it's going to make the game a lot easier. And then his king is still not made of the promised lands. So I have some ideas of like queen g1 check and rook h2. So here I went with the genius queen h6 check, and now I lose this a pawn. Yeah, queen e3 would have been a great move as well. But I didn't want to part with these pawns because it looked very dangerous. So I went queen h4, threatening rook h2, which would now win the queen, also putting pressure on e4. And here he went rook f2, b6, defend with tempo, and now here rook g4 to put pressure on e4. And he went here, rook f4, trying to trade. He said no, queen g4. And then when I played this, I was like, oh my god, can he go bishop d8? Like, what can I do with bishop d8? And then I realized I can go queen g7, but oh my god. I mean, literally when I went queen g7, I was like, alright, my next move, I'm going to trap the bishop. But actually, I'm realizing this just now, just by saying it out loud, I'm trying to trap the bishop. Instead of queen g7, I could just go queen d7, and the bishop is trapped. I just win the piece, and this would have made the game a lot simpler. So, okay, I was in some time pressure here, maybe like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but man, to be missing these tactics, like, how do I play so much bullet, get 2800 in bullet, be good at blitz, do puzzles every day, and be missing this stuff? That is something about discipline and something that I can't be missing. I have to be in the right state of mind and seeing this kind of stuff. So queen g7, d6, take, now rook h4. And another thing I realized with this is, dude, I can't, even taking this pawn at some point, I'm running into this pin. So it's not the most like favorable thing anyway, but okay, I have to do something, right? So he goes queen d3, queen g4. Now if he takes on d6, I win the rook. He went bishop c7, and here's where I thought, okay, I'm in the clear. So take, trade off everything, and we get this endgame. Now, I didn't think for sure this is winning, but in time pressure, my moves are very obvious, and I did think, like, if he just makes one inaccuracy, one slow move, I should easily be able to win this. So rook e2 check, I thought king c3 was a really good choice, because king a3, he gets in the way of these, and now I can just push my pawns, and they're going to be too fast, for sure. So he made the right choice by sacrificing, and I don't even think I can take this, because these two pawns together are going to run. They're going to run real fast. These two pawns are going to take off, and sometimes like I can sack my rook for one of them, but I don't even know if I can sack for two. So I would actually like be worried about losing this position. So I didn't take. I just started bringing the king over. This is a very important idea when you're playing somebody and they have passed pawns, and you're up material, or just when they have passed pawns. Get your king under. That is how you hold these. So king here, and then c5 is when I was like, all right, we're good. So king e6 first. Apparently I gotta go f5 first, and then king. Actually, after king c4, I knew I was winning, because now I can queen this. I also queen this at the discovery, so I can pick up whatever queen he promotes to. And I thought he wasted enough time where now his pawns weren't really a threat. So f3, king d3, and then just a nice finish is e4 check, king d4, and f2. Because now if he goes a7, I just catch it. I mean, I probably could queen too. Yeah, like you can see. But then I have to calculate, but just this, catch it, he can't stop this pawn anymore, and that is where he resigned, and I became the winner of the Battle of the Errands. So, tournament, that's round 5, 3.5 out of 5, and I will go through and recap what I thought of the tournament next. Alright, so this is the recap of the tournament. What I like to do with my students and I do with myself is I try to make a spreadsheet and write down all the big things that I learned, because I really think writing stuff down, I don't have this God memory, and when you write things down, at least when I write things down, it helps me remember stuff, and that way I can look back on it and see, okay, this is the big things that keep coming up. But definitely digging deeper into tactics. So if you look at this, it pretty much happens every round, or enough times that it's definitely something that I gotta work on. So that means when I do puzzles, don't just be like, all right, well, I think this is it, let's go. Like, really calculate and see, what do you think the answer is, and then figure out if you get it wrong, okay, why did I get it wrong? What is the answer? Some other things that I think that came up a lot was keeping pieces coordinated. Like in round 1, I tried to go after the a pawn, but the bishop got trapped, so I couldn't do that. Bringing the king in also, before you start going for over pushing stuff, that was another thing in the first game. Let's see what else. That was, yeah, don't lose coordination. This is also against Ethan when I tried to trade queens and I lost kind of my way. That was important. Dropping the pawn in the last round game, I think that has to do with don't lose coordination. Like when you have a good position, but one of your pieces goes off somewhere else, and it's not really doing anything over there. It happens when you see something, you're like, ooh, I want that, and then you kind of go for that without looking at the whole picture. And I guess tie everything together. That I think the Damir game, where I was so fixated on breaking through on the queen side, though I did have some this nice tactic. I was so fixated on that I kind of lost my way the rest of the board. So coordination and tactics, that would be the big things that I need to work on for the next tournament. Like, this is my first tournament since playing in Europe, so you're gonna see some rust. You're gonna see some poor judgment, I guess. But I would say those are the big takeaways from the negative side. From the good side, though, openings are good. I thought I did a really good job of getting good positions, keeping it creative, being able to switch between different variations. Now, I did not play against e4, so that is a big, I guess, question mark on how am I going to face e4 in the next tournaments. I will see e4. That is guaranteed. This is not going to be all d4, c4 the rest of my life. So we'll see there, but definitely going to do more work in the opening. And then I thought I did a good job of applying pressure to my opponents. Every round, I had winning positions. I had winning tactics. So that it's not easy always, like, putting pressure on your opponent, or sometimes, like, you don't get that chance. So I thought I did a really good job of that this tournament. So overall, I would give myself a B- of this tournament performance. You could also say a C+, but C's hurt Indians for sure. It hurts us in our soul. And I also didn't lose a game, so I went undefeated. Okay, it was 3 draws and 2 wins. But that's why I think I'm going to keep it in the B-, the B range. Definitely some work to do. Definitely some good things to see. Next tournament is most likely U.S. Masters in November, so I have about a month to get ready for that. Actually, almost a month to the day, I would say. So I'm going to get to work, and we'll be ready for the next one. So hope you guys enjoyed the recap. Hope you guys enjoyed the entertaining games, the entertaining misses. Hope y'all were entertained. Peace.